You're listening to Seattle Real Estate Podcast.
What's up, my friends? You're back. I'm back. We're here. Let's do this. What are we talking about today? We talk a lot about how the whole concept of homelessness in city parks and that kind of thing is not good for residential real estate. It's not good for any real estate, but where do you put people who are unhoused? Well, this story, we're going to check it out. A closed skating rink will be converted into a homeless shelter named after Alex Trebek. And this is in LA, I believe, California. Correct? Is that right? Yep, in Los Angeles. That's what we're talking about. And then we're also going to talk about skyrocketing lumber prices. Lumber is going through the roof. You know how everybody always says, well, if there was only affordable housing and it's because of this and that. Well, this is one of those things that's making housing unaffordable right now is skyrocketing lumber. And you might think, really? Yeah, really it is. It's a real estate podcast. We know our stuff on this kind of thing. All right, before we jump into it, if you're new here, my name is Sean Reynolds. I own a couple of real estate companies, and I read the news. I read the news that you as a reasonable person and me as a reasonable person, we want to talk about, we want to hear. Let's jump on into it. So we've got this skating rink what's the deal on this? I mean, a skating rink, homeless, Alex Trebek, random, right? This is a CNN article. I know what you're thinking. You can't trust CNN. I don't. But on something like this, all right, and I've confirmed it with a few other stories. It was the longest article I could find, all right? I mean, nobody else willing to cover it. It's like, who cares? We're covering it. A skating rink in Los Angeles set to be converted into a homeless shelter will bear the name of the late Alex Trebek, the famed host of Jeopardy. That guy was famous, wasn't he? I mean, he did that role for so many years. You're like, oh yeah, how many decades has he been doing that? Trebek, who hosted the popular game show for more than 3 decades, 30 years, made a donation to the California-based Hope of the Valley Rescue Mission back in November when the organization was attempting to purchase the closed skate rink. CNN affiliate KCAL reported, at the time, the nonprofit, which works against poverty and homelessness, wanted to turn the building into a housing facility for those in need. We talk a lot about this issue all the time. Where are you going to house people? And I've had so many of you guys comment on where you think, people where they should be going, what the government should be doing. And there's so many different ideas of how do we handle this? Who is responsible for what? And I just wanted to read this story because it's kind of got one of those happy endings. You're repurposing a shelter. But then I started obviously just crunching the numbers and I'm like, oh my gosh, that is so much money total they're putting into this. But that's why I think we've got such an incredible homelessness issue. People that are unhoused is because it is so expensive. If somebody isn't paying their own rent, it is so expensive on a per person basis to cover their rent, to cover their medical, to cover the services that they need that they're probably facing as somebody who is stuck in the poverty cycle or stuck in the addiction cycle or stuck in the mental health care crisis cycle. And the services and all the facilities and things that this segment of society needs, it is mind-blowingly expensive. You're always like, you're paying how much per tent? And then you start looking at it and you're like, okay, all right. There's some fluff in there, just like there always in any big company. And you could say that about the police budget. Hey, there's at least 10% fluff in there. We know that, right? But the numbers on just making sure somebody has a roof over their head on a large scale, they're mind-blowing. They're phenomenal. You think, well, you just put a tent out there. You've got them covered. You give them a sleeping bag. You can get one of those for $29.99 at Walmart. I don't know how much a sleeping bag costs at Walmart. I would at REI a few years ago when I was doing more of the outdoor stuff. But you can't really go down those things because those are just the few things that get a roof over their head. It's all the other stuff. It's all the other services. It's all the other help that the folks who are in this position need. And that's That's the brutal part, right? And you're like, oh, yeah, you got to have that. Oh, I forgot about that. And if you haven't really been around or read or, talked about the homeless thing, services are a huge, huge part of this. And you got to have them. You can't just, all right, you got a shelter over your head. Now take care of that heroin issue. Good luck with that. All right, good luck. All right, we'll see you in 6 months when you've recovered. Doesn't really work that way, does it? No, it doesn't. The actual physical structure is just a small part of it. The rest is all the stuff, the infrastructure it takes to help kind of get people back. So here we go. On Thursday, Hope of the Valley unveiled the building as the Trebek Center, set to hold 107 beds in honor of Trebek, who died last year. I know how proud Alex was of their mission, said Jean Trebek, the host's wife, at the unveiling. He was so deeply grateful to be part of the solution, to always lend a helping hand by offering both hope and practical assistance to those in need. CNN reached out to Hope of the Valley for comment, but did not receive a response. The Skateland Rink, a staple in the San Fernando Valley for 60 years, closed in 2020 due to the COVID-19 pandemic. That sucks. Skating rink that had been there for 60 years goes under. Maybe it wasn't doing well before. I don't know. That's the way I would like to see it. And somebody put it out of its misery. Or is skating still a thing? Rollerblading? I don't know. I mean, skating, not really in my things. I would be afraid of falling over. I used to rollerblade many years ago. I'd be afraid of falling over, breaking my arm, and not being able to go to the gym. That's where I sit with the whole skating thing. The 23,000 square foot building will undergo a $6 million renovation before it officially opens as a shelter. So you think 23,000 square feet, that's pretty big. Okay? It's not that big. You look at the inside of this thing, it is literally a skate rink with, kind of that stadium dome roof. And then you've got the rink that covers and the fence outlining the rink. It's your standard skate rink, right? And then I'm sure you got snack area and rent your skates and all that good stuff. But 23,000 square feet, that's a decent size office building, but it's not huge. It's not mammoth. And then $6 million, you think, oh my gosh, a skating rink? Can't you just put some pads down and they've got the roof, they're going to be okay? No, they got to do all that other stuff, right? If you're going to be housing the homeless, they're going to come in with a bunch of issues and you need to be set up to help them out. That's how it works. So $6 million, you think, oh my gosh, that's a lot of money. How much is it per square foot, you ask? You might ask that. I did the math. It's $260-something in renovation a square foot. Sounds like an awful lot, but that's really not, especially in LA. And that's part of the second thing I'm going to be talking about is skyrocketing lumber prices. And why do we care about that? Because that goes into something like a $6 million renovation. If you got skyrocketing lumber, this building is basically, let's call it, it's an open shell. It's got a roof on it. It's got all, it's a lockdown structure, but it has nothing inside but typical skate ring stuff. It is not ready to go by any, shape of the imagination. So $6 million, $260 square foot. All right. I have no idea what they're going to end up putting in there, but if it's going to house 107 people, it's going to be divided up into little cubicles, that kind of thing, a bunch of bathrooms, and all the facilities and stuff that you need for 107 people. It's a lot of folks. So throughout his life, Trebek was dedicated to supporting a myriad of causes. In 2011, he and his wife formed the Trebek Family Foundation to better support charities. He also has been a supporter of the Hope of the Valley. Once you form a charitable foundation, it becomes easier to give, Trebek told the Washingtonian a year later. It brought about a nice change. Trebek was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer in 2019 and died last November at the age of 80. I was sad when he died. That guy he was just a trooper. He did that show forever and ever. And he always seemed so calm and so just like, I'm Alex Trebek. You just kind of felt like, all right, that guy's not going to screw me. You know what I mean? He's just one of those guys where you thought, well, I could listen to him do this talk show and whether you liked him or not. I liked him. I thought he was good. I'm not a fan of game shows because I think they're all rigged. But, it's entertainment. So people tune into different kind of entertainment. Like you guys are tuning into me. Some people would say, Sean is an idiot. He has no idea what he's talking about. He comes from white privilege. He has no business doing what he's doing. Well, we just talk about stuff that reasonable people talk about and want to hear, right? That's kind of all we do. I read the news. It's not like I'm coming up with these amazing proclamations. I'm just tossing out subject matter that I think should be covered. And I cover it from a business standpoint and from a guy who's in residential real estate of all things, because why not? Nobody else is. Very few people are. Mainly because it's not a real popular thing to talk about the way that I do, which is just you take on some subjects and you get in there and you're like, all right, yeah, this makes no sense at all. Or this makes some sense, but here's maybe what I would do. And a lot of the situations, a lot of the stories that I read, yeah, I have no idea what the end result is. And a lot of people hit me up on that. Hey, you get close to talking about a resolution, but then you don't get into it. And it's not because I don't want to share my opinion. It's because I don't really have one. Like the homelessness thing. You got a ton of people who are living outside. What do you do? I don't know. But one of my main things is I'm a real estate guy. And so you've got zoning and you've got all this other stuff that's in my head that screams out, you can't have people living in the parks. And I think there's a lot of parents and there's a lot of other citizens and tax-paying people who agree with me there, but maybe not from the standpoint that I come from. Because to me, it's like, all right, you've got a law and you need to abide by it. But then you've got the human side, the human interest side, which is these people are living outside. And what better place to live in but a park close to services to make their living situation easier. It's really sad when you think about if you are homeless and you are in need of services, you've basically got to live in a tent somewhere within walking distance. And so that's why a lot of the other areas, just outside of the services, you don't have the homelessness problem. It's just in areas within walking distance. So, it's a super sad deal all the way around, but we've got literally thousands of these people living within our communities. We do in Seattle anyway. We don't in Bellevue where I live, but that's because our leadership has handled things differently. But on some level, if you don't feel bad for people living outside, and I'm not talking about people who've been out there 10 years and are addicted to whatever, heroin, whatever it is. Those people live there by choice. Other people who are temporarily unhoused, those are the kind of people I'm talking about. And that's where a shelter like this 23,000 square foot building kind of comes into play, because those people can get back on their feet, hopefully, and get back on the right track. That is the eternal optimist in me. Does that happen very often? No, it doesn't. It just kind of keeps going. So that's happening. We've got that. What else happened? Today, I'm recording this on a Monday. That ship that was in the Suez Canal, that got pulled out of there. What a disaster. Just bottling up the shipping canal. It was costing like $1 billion a day or something. Just nuts, because the amount of ships that couldn't go through their direct shipping canal, that got pulled out of there. Whew. All right. That was going to cause some real supply chain, or has caused some real supply chain nonsense, right? Just like, don't need that. How do you think that captain felt as he was moving forward and he's like, crap, this doesn't feel right. And all of a sudden the ship comes to a slow, stuttering stop. And he's like, ooh, I think I hit the sandbar. Did I not read the charts right? Who knows what was going through his mind? But there probably weren't any words that I could use here on a family broadcast like this, right? That guy had to have been just, oh my gosh, what have I done? That ship was enormous. And it's sideways on the Suez Canal and other ships can't pass. If you didn't follow the story, there's a ship got turned sideways in the Suez Canal, and so many other ships go through there that deliver all kinds of goods. But But yeah, they got that out of there. That happened, what, was that early last week? Something like that? Or has it been longer than that? I can't remember. That's just one of those stories you're like, okay, glad they got that chip out of there. Because you got enough supply chain nonsense going on in the world with COVID, so you don't have to have that. So here's another, this is a supply chain and this is housing directly. People say, hey, Sean, you don't cover enough real estate. Well, I kind of do in sideways stories, right? And this is one of them. Skyrocketing lumber prices drive up home building costs in Washington. How much has lumber gone up? Well, the cost of lumber has gone up 188% since the beginning of the pandemic. 188%. You want to talk about raising the essential cost of building a home? People are always saying, oh, you don't have enough affordable housing. This is one of those things that contribute to it. And builders deal with it. We're dealing with it. Real estate brokers are dealing with it. Because I think in this story, you'll hear about, hey, we closed a couple of homes, but by the time they went under contract to when the time they were finished, they probably had a massive increase in the cost of that lumber that they still got to honor their commitment. There's nothing in the clause in the real estate contract that says, hey, if lumber prices go up 188%, you, Mr. Builder, you're going to have to, we're going to reimburse you for that. No, it's Mr. Builder. That's just a cost for you building the home. And never, I don't think, has lumber gone up that much, 188%. And this isn't just a Washington thing. This is an all over thing, right? Anyone buying lumber these days is in for sticker shock. Prices are at unprecedented levels, and it's affecting everyone from people planning home construction projects to home builders like landed gentry homes. This is an article out of Skagit County up north, where normally we'd be having the Tulip Festival right now. Got a video on this channel. If you want to see me walk around and look at some tulip fields, you can do that. It's very exciting stuff. We got stuck in some mud. I mean, there was tulips, windmills, you name it. Every spring, we get a bunch of mature ladies who love their tulips, who follow the channel, and then realize that we talk about, homelessness and housing and Antifa and real estate, really random stuff, or so it would appear. Not so much about flowers, pretty flowers, and then they unsubscribe. So that's what we have happen once a year, because we have a massive tulip festival up north in Skagit County where this article is coming from. And who doesn't like pretty flowers? There's like acres and acres and acres and fields of them. I mean, it's epic. And so people come from all over the country to go look at the Tulip Festival. And it's fun. But so what's happening up there right now is not the Tulip Festival because, Rona, you can't have people outside looking at flowers. At least I don't think it's going. I haven't heard of it. I think I would have heard of it if it was going right now. But you can't have people standing outside shoulder to shoulder. I mean, no, that could be a super spreader event, especially in a field. Whew, that's a no-go. Price of lumber has gone up 188% since the beginning of the pandemic, adding at least $24,000 to the price of a new single-family home, according to the National Association of Home Builders. So I get a lot of comments about how to handle the housing supply issue. Hey, you don't have enough housing. You don't have enough affordable housing. That's why you got all these people living outside in the park. Okay. And then people are like, well, just hire all the illegal immigrants and put them to work building homes. All right. There's this simple process called taking a raw piece of dirt, which is land, into a lot, which is developed land. And it's the process, it's the development process that is incredibly expensive here in the state of Washington. And so you've got a land scarcity issue. It's not just building the homes. And then you've got things like lumber going up 188% during the pandemic. You've got massive demand for all things lumber because everybody's sitting at home going, well, if I'm going to be here for much longer, I'm going to take care of that crappy deck. I'm going to get that deck squared away. So off they go to Home Depot, they buy a whole bunch of lumber, they build their deck, or they get to Home Depot and go, holy crap, I didn't realize that lumber was so expensive. What happened? Well, lumber prices have gone up 188%. That's what happened here in Washington anyway. We got a lot of trees here. Washington is known for logging, not so much anymore because of the whole spotted owl thing. Don't get me started on that, right? There are a few instances where we did not make a profit on the house. Kendra Decker, who handles sales and marketing with Landed Gentry Homes, basically said, didn't make a profit on the house. It broke even, but didn't make a profit, probably because the market, as this home was being built, the market, is going up so exponentially harder than I've ever seen it go up, which is not sustainable, by the way. Just keep that in the back of your head. Real estate market going up forever, not sustainable. We all know this, but younger people are like, in a couple of years, that home will be worth $200,000 more. Maybe. Market doesn't always do what we think it's going to do. Sometimes it takes a little detour down prices dropping road, right? Landed Gentry is building about 60 homes in a new development in Cedro-Woolley called the Cambridge Commons. Love how all these developments have English names. The Cambridge Commons makes it sound really fancy. They are no longer doing pre-sales on homes in that neighborhood because prices have increased so dramatically between the purchase and sale agreement on a home and when it is delivered to the customer in 4 to 6 months. So a lot of builders, they want to lock in those prices and they want to lock in those guaranteed sales. Then they can get financing for, another lot. Dealt with a lot of lenders, financing construction over the years. That's been a big part of our segment at Reynolds and Kline Appraisal, doing construction. We do a lot of hard money lending appraisals right now because, people want to buy stuff and do stuff that banks don't necessarily want to lend on. That's how you do it with hard money. But so a pre-sale on a home is just you buy it before the home's even built, and you buy it based on set of plans, specs, and a contract. And the builder says, all right, for this price, I agree to sell you this home when it's done. And so this builder, and I think a lot of other builders are in that same boat. They're going, we're not doing any pre-sales because we have no idea how much this is going to cost us. So we need to be able to pick our pricing accordingly and reflect some of these costs. So that time frame, how about that? Is that time frame, this is the start and this is the ending. I don't know. The time frame between when the buyer puts it under contract and when they actually close on it, meaning the home is done, can be huge with prices going up that rapidly, said Brian Gentry of Landed Gentry. He's president. That can be a giant squeeze on our margin of the company. That's why home builders are basically, a lot of them are saying, no more pre-sales. We're not doing that. We are going to fly by the seat of our pants and just see where this ends up market-wise when we get this bad boy done in 4 to 6 months, if we can get enough lumber to build our homes. Landed Gentry has switched their business model to selling move-in ready or quick delivery homes. You know why? Because they can make the most money doing it. And that makes sense. They are a business. This isn't a nonprofit. This is home building. And you got to make some money there, right? Otherwise, your business goes under. Not being subsidized like the 130 artists in San Francisco who are being subsidized $1,000 a month to go and do their art. No, we're not subsidizing home builders. So what we do is we have lot holds and lot reservations, said Decker. Once we're close enough to completion, we can release them for sale. We will release them to you for a buying opportunity. Ugh. Crazy market right now. I spent better portion. I'm recording this podcast at 2:20 in the afternoon, which is really late for me. But I spent a good portion of the morning trying to figure out some strategies with two of my brokers, how they're going to present offers and, will their buyers be the winner? We know that there are multiple offer situations in wildly different markets, but this is just going on everywhere. There's just not enough housing. Looked at a map. I wanted one of my brokers, hey, do a radius search 2 miles out for all active listings, 2 miles from the property that you're going to be making an offer on. Let's take a look and see what's out there. There was only like 2 other properties. And normally you'd have 13, 14, 15, maybe, somewhere in that range. Even 8 would be better, but we had like 2. And so that just causes prices to go through the roof because buyers, they can't get a hold of anything and they're experiencing buyer fatigue. And then they get to this point where they're just like, F it. I don't care. Get us a house. We don't care. Mr. Mortgage Guy, can you get us more of a loan? We don't care. We need a house right now. That's what's going on. So you either have buyer fatigue when people get tired and they quit. And you're like, I'm going to come back to when the market's quieter and it's, homes are worth less. Good luck on that one. That's not happening anytime soon. Or they're just like, F it. Give me a house. Don't care how you do it. Get me a house. Those are kind of the two options right now. Because the people that are still actively out looking for homes right now, they've made offers on how many different homes? 4, 5, 6, 15. I think the most that I know of a Summit broker is like 8. But it sometimes takes that long for buyers to realize, oh my gosh, this is super competitive. Here's what we think we need to do. And that's where I kind of say the winners are losers from the standpoint of they have outpaid everybody else and they gave up basically all of their rights to buy this house. Is that really the winner? Winner, chicken dinner? That's what I struggle with is, hey, if you want to get this house, here's what you got to do. You basically have to give away everything and all protections a buyer would normally enter into in a contract. They got to waive all that because that's the only way you're going to get a house because you're competing against so many buyers that are going to do that exact same thing. And if you don't do that, they're going to get your house. That's just where it's at. And that's on the daily, and it's been happening since last May, right? That's when I think we start to really see multiple offer situation really take off. It was hot going into the pandemic, but man, this pandemic has shrunk that supply chain of housing. And, here's one more thing, lumber prices. So we've had lumber tariffs. So we talked about the lot holds and lot reservations, meaning a buyer, they can get the lot, they reserve it. Feel really good about their vacant piece of dirt that's going to be built on for a price undisclosed because we don't know it yet. So what's driving prices up? Lumber mills pulled back on production at the beginning of the pandemic. Every other kind of mill did too, right? You can't get Johnny Worker in there. And now they're trying to make up for it. The lumber mills, but they're so far behind. But that's not the only reason. We've had lumber tariffs that have happened over the last several years. For Canadian lumber, Skagit is way north in Washington, so it's up near the border. And that's affected lumber prices in the U.S., said Gentry. And so it's affected lumber prices across the U.S. We've had several mills that have shut down in the last 3 or 4 years, and there's just less supply coming out to the system. So again, it's a supply issue, just like housing going through the roof is a supply issue. And part of that is the demand curve as well is super strong because people can get in there and with interest rates still, even though they've jumped up, I think 6 weeks in a row, they're still pretty darn low. And so people are out there clamoring, hey, we know rates have gone up, but we still want that house. We want our American dream. And if you got to ding us for the lumber, guess we'll take it. So tight supply and unexpected demand for housing could price some people out of buying a home. It is pricing people out of homes on the daily. Buyers are giving up. I'll come back to this later. So there's my tie-in on this one to the whole real estate thing. Since this is the Seattle Real Estate Podcast, lumber prices through the roof. Next time you go to Home Depot or Lowe's or wherever you shop at, take a look. If you haven't bought lumber for a while, you might go, holy cow, what's going on? I had a roof replaced on my house last summer before things really got out of control, lumber prices. But at that point in time, and that was that last spring? I can't really remember. Maybe April, something like that. I don't really even know anymore. Life just goes so fast, and you've only got room in your brain for so much. When I had my roof done, kind of doesn't really matter anymore. It was expensive, not cheap. I should remember, but I don't. But even then, I committed and paid for my roof. Cost of sheathing went up substantially. And it was just like, oh, geez, that is crazy. Lumber prices going up because there's so many people doing home renovation projects and home builders cannot keep up with the demand. Home builders have been behind on building homes for about a decade since the whole Great Recession. Coming out of that, we've never had enough supply of housing for people. And then you've got these interest rates with the whole Rona deal and the federal government committing to keep those low. That's just been fuel to the fire of demand for housing. So there you go. I talked about real estate, right? Wasn't that exciting? No, but real estate never is. That's why we talk about Antifa and all this other stuff, because it's what you guys want to talk about. I'm happy to do it. So, all right, that's it for me on this one. Thanks so much for being here. Love to have you subscribe. Hit that like for this video. Hit the notification bell if you're looking on YouTube. That way you get notified each time we bring a video to market, which is twice a day, Monday through Friday, once on Saturday, once on Sunday. We're here daily for you. Hit that subscribe button. It helps me out a lot. And share the content. That's another great way to get it out there, because there are some people that say that what I'm saying shouldn't be stated. Keep that quiet, Sean. Nah, I'm not going to. It's not how I roll. All right. See you guys in the next one. Bye for now. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell so you'll know when our next video is out.